thing for the park board. The park board members had to stop at the park to take a picture with the Girl Scouts, and we'll be starting in about 5 minutes.
Oh,
So if you wanna come in here, if you're just taking this.
aren't they gonna have it in here?
They are. I just don't wanna be talking to them. Yeah, so the Girl Scouts thought that our park board meeting was at the park, because
Oh.
they finished that 9-square thing. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I
To the
was
west
hearing it,
of
but
there.
I've never seen anybody doing it.
Yeah. So they thought that the park board meeting was down there. So this didn't get found out until today when I couldn't change the agenda. So I told the park board people, go down there at 10 to 5, take a picture with them, and we'll start 5 minutes early. So
All right.
that's where we're at. I need to get my packet.
That's just about the drainage.
Okay.
And my concern about what has happened in the Legion in the last 3 years. We have been in the La Nina, and that always gives us droughts around here. And the meteorologists, how much they know, I don't know, have said, I've heard said more than once, that we now have entered El Niño, which always gives us flooding. And since then, in the last 3 years, we have a new pool that is 5 times the cement the old one is, new playground equipment, and
You're talking about the park, you're concerned about the park.
yeah, because that was just a great big water sink on the east side. And when you, and now, I mean, they're
There's
putting
still
more.
the gravel of the rest of it, but that strip right
Well, in gravel, one of the things that was really valuable, when I talked to, at Riccio, he built the pool, he really knew a lot about surfaces. I mean, he didn't really know a whole lot about everything else, but he really knew a lot about surfaces. And I asked him, because I had asked the city engineer for this, and he said he didn't know. They flat out just said he didn't know. What's the difference between concrete and gravel? How permeable?
there.
And,
It's a lot more with gravel, but they also have permeable asphalt that they've experimented on.
Yeah,
It's not
but-
fabulous.
and it doesn't stand up very long.
Right, I gotta get my packet in case they.
Okay.
Yeah, they're coming right now.
This is the time of year I hate though because it's like hot outside and you walk inside the air conditioning and you're like cold.
Yeah.
I was working from home today and I had a blanket around me and I'm
Did
like,
ya?
well, because I have my air on. 'cause
Well, yeah, when you
know,
sit
the-
still for a long time.
Yeah, and the air is on you and
I'd say we made darn good time, guys.
I think so too.
My watch says we're only 3 minutes late.
Yeah.
So we can do it all after all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
trying to get everything done.
we can try.
Extra printer. Oh,
You need a pen?
Yeah.
I got like 10 of them in this
Thank
drawer.
you.
We have a drawer full of pens.
I do.
Oh.
It's like, yeah, there's a ton of them. Literally a ton of them.
Now we're gonna wait for Lisa.
Yeah, where's she at?
She must be in her room.
She may have thought it was going to take us longer.
Well, we can cross off that Girl Scout troop thing on here, right?
Yes.
We don't have to talk about that anymore, because that's done. Maybe she doesn't even know we're here.
Turn them off after the last meeting.
Is the TV on?
It
Or
is.
is it out there?
It is on the internet, not on the TV. So we're good. Go ahead.
Call meeting to order.
We'll
With a roll call.
Modernock, Orr, Roush,
Here.
McLeese.
Here.
Simon.
Here.
Agenda, everybody get a chance to look at it?
Yep.
Do I
I'll make a
Have-
motion to approve the agenda.
a second?
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment?
Good.
Okay, I don't have any. Approve meeting minutes from August 14th meeting. Everybody get a chance to look at that? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I will skip to number 8. Or I'm sorry, number 6, month-end financial reports, August 2023.
So I gave you revenues and expenses from both. We didn't finish our September yet, so still just have August, but there's revenues and expenses from both the park and the pool. If there's any questions.
Yeah, I didn't see anything out of the ordinary.
Oh, didn't either.
There was, yeah, right, this, to soccer field,
What page you on?
page 6. What was the $200 for? That was the only thing I,
Oh, it's to Mike Gale, so it's some kind of,
oh, okay.
it's like fertilizer,
I didn't know if we
killer or
bought
something.
nets or something.
No, it's to Mike Gale. If you look
Oh,
over to
yeah.
the left, it says Gale
Lawn Gale.
Lawn.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, that was
All right.
all I had. I have to have a motion on that. I have a motion on the month-end financial reports.
I'll make a motion to approve the month-end financial.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Number 8, pickleball group request update.
So I just wanted to let you know that we did meet with the enhancement committee, kind of introduced pickleball people. I mean, people know each other, obviously, but the pickleballers, kind of the leaders of that process, have met with the enhancement committee, which is, you know, the same nonprofit group. They had talked about creating a nonprofit group, and I had suggested, you know, it really doesn't make sense to do that. You're not gonna stay like this active money fundraising type group forever. So it's kind of not necessarily one and done, but the bigger part will be done. And so they met with the enhancement committee that is willing to kind of take the umbrella as the organization to do that. They did request that they wait until at least January, only because some of their financial requirements for taxes with the IRS depend on how much money they bring in.
Makes sense.
And they've brought in the, 70,000-ish for the
Oh.
playground. So Randy's the financial person, and that was his request. So they kind of know their timeline, obviously. One of the things I said was similar to the playground, like there may be funding that the park board is willing to allocate to do some of that, but I said, we're not gonna have $160,000. That's literally taking 3.5 years of doing nothing for the 50,000 that you get. And so I said, you're gonna have to, make an effort like the playground people did to do some of the fundraising, whether that's half, I didn't give them a number, but that was at least the advice that I gave them. And to kind of talk about, I think everybody would like to see if we were gonna do 4 courts to put them up at the newer parkland that will be developing. So Phil and Ben and I were out there and kind of walked off where the playground will go as you drove in to the left. And then we talked about perhaps pickleball being off to the right there. There are a couple trees that would probably have to come down. They're not huge trees, and some of them are not fabulously, they're kind of half alive, half dead. And so to kind of get perspective, we walked it off, but it's like a 30 by 60 is the size of one court. So to have 4 corners, you would need about 60 by 120. And so we kind of walked that off just to get a concept of whether you'd go the long way behind the house that's off to the right. I don't know who that person is. That's like 2 houses over from your kids. The one house on the other side of the driveway, and so it could go the long way that way, or if you put it the long way going from north to south, it comes almost to the road, and so, but there's a possibility that you could, you know, kind of, if we ever put in a driveway, we'll call it, it's not really a road. And we did set back the playground, like you can think about that berm, you know, kind of the hill that's over behind Weaver and Amy's and Huffman's and stuff. So we put a row of trees, like we got that tree grant, so there's 2 trees that will go on the south side of the playground. So basically, we left enough room that you would have like 5 feet from the property line, a 10-foot trail, another 20 feet before you would put the playground. And so setting it back that far to the south would allow for like parking, like if you envision when you drive into the land there on that driveway, you would be able to park people in front of the playground, or say you kept going and eventually like put a park pavilion or gazebo type structure. Again, you could go off to the west or to the south of that drive and park again. And so we're, you know, you could move things over a little bit. So that's kind of what we talked about with the pickleballers. That would probably be the best location. I don't have a price yet, or I haven't talked to the guys yet about if we can paint that cement yet, maybe this fall.
What was the response to that when you presented it to them? Were they like, okay
Yeah, I
with
think
it?
they
Were
understand.
they
I mean,
were
I think, you know, it's
okay.
always about, will they find people to give, but I think people know. You know, like we just don't, everybody wants us to do things, but it's really about how much money there is.
So when you say waiting till January, does that mean you're gonna wait until then, until like we start like putting together like mock-ups and blueprints and kind of go over pricing and expenses, or are you gonna start that now?
I think that we know from past projects around here that it's about $40,000 to build a court.
One
So,
court.
correct.
So the more courts you have together, does it get cheaper?
Probably not.
Slightly.
Yes, because you would have like no
You would-
middle fence down the
Yeah.
middle, you know, things like that, but not exponentially.
Is 4 courts enough?
Well, you'd really have then 2 locations to play.
Well, there's other locations other than just that, too, so it should be plenty for quite
Okay.
a while.
How many courts do they play on right now? I mean, it's still going
Is
to
it
be.
technically 4 up there if nobody's playing tennis,
I
or is
think
it 3 up there?
I
It's
think
3 up
it's
there.
3, so
It's
they're
3,
still going to get an
and then
extra
there's-
court if they do.
There's one downstairs here, so, and then there's some over, you know, if they use
They
the
could
gym
play at the
over at the
gym.
Weber Center, if it's
But
available.
they'll still have those options, like you
Right,
said, so
right.
they're still gonna have.
So we would still use them down there eventually. I mean, once you get the new ones built, you'd
Oh,
still
yeah.
use the tennis
Yeah,
courts.
it'd still
Definitely.
be an option.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
they'd go here because those aren't tennis courts, and then people know, like, if their group is bigger, then there's 2,
Overflow.
right? Is it 2? Is it 2 up there that aren't on the tennis court? Because part of it's tennis and part of it isn't?
Well, one of them,
If somebody comes to play tennis, how many do you have left?
if someone comes to play tennis, we have 2 left.
Okay, so only 1 is on the tennis court?
Yes.
Okay, so then my point is, even if someone's playing tennis, you could have 2 courts
They could
going
still
at
be
that
playing
park. So you
pickleball.
really always have 6, even with no conflict on the outdoor venues. So,
And they were promised seed money from that gentleman who's been doing it,
yeah.
In Monticello.
that
Oh,
Monticello
I
gentleman.
know who you're talking.
Yeah, can't remember his name.
Somebody
right now.
contacted him then?
Well,
I
just to
believe
get
they
some
called.
ideas on how to finance and to do things, not asking him for it, he offered it as seed money, 10 grand.
It's good.
I don't know what stipulations are on that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I don't think much.
that'll come after they
So
start.
anyway, that was just an update that, you know, we've kind of tried to keep them excited about it, but trying to also be practical with what abilities we have as a,
Right.
your board as a group has.
Thing is, you go out and get, you know, pricing on it now, it's gonna change from,
Yeah, I don't think it's worth it.
you know, to after, at least
I
after
would
the first of the
agree.
year, probably.
You'd need to wait till it gets closer,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I was saying, like, wait until it gets closer to actually
Right.
sit down and figure out the logistics.
Is that in a 2-year plan, or is that next year, or what do you?
I mean,
They'd like it to be on a 1-year plan, but,
if they can raise
Yeah.
the money over the winter, like, we could talk about it for next spring, but it just depends how much, you know? Like, if they had only raised 80, then probably has to be a 2-year plan. Because you could say, we're gonna give you, even 80 is literally taking almost all of your You know, it's taking 80% of the funds, or, you know, I don't, basically, I've told them and I've told baseball and softball, like, until this library thing gets resolved and we know what that is, like, really, if you have to go to the council, like, we can't talk about it until we know what the library situation is.
And I think by January, then, some
Right.
serious
We'll
talk
have
may
the
happen.
library bids in December, so,
Right.
Okay.
just an update.
Playground equipment for park near Oak Hill update.
So I gave you the spreadsheet since we hadn't met. Obviously, you knew that I was gonna recommend, and the council approved ordering it. So I did place the order for the playground equipment last week. It was due, as you recall, by the 30th. So I met, the council approved it on the 25th. I met with the gentleman from the company on the 27th, Wednesday of last week, and ordered that. It's probably a 6 to 8 week lead time, and so it'll be delivered to the warehouse, and then we won't be able to install it until spring. So we wanted to lay that out, because we're gonna be planting the trees, which is another agenda item, and then, trying to kind of figure out how we're gonna make sure that it's not easy to install playground equipment. Because you have to be very precise with every concrete post so that it's in the right spot. So we're trying to work with, Matt Minster over at Eastern Iowa Excavating to be able to have some sort of GPS locate system that they use to be able to put exact locations, but it's like getting this base level information, so we're kind of trying to work through that.
And how much, they raised 60,955?
70,000.
Okay.
70,006.
Oh, I might-
But maybe, it was on the last
Oh,
page.
okay. So that means, we got 50,000 as a match for the playground equipment?
There were 2 donors that each gave 15,000, and the rest came from smaller donations.
Right, but then we were gonna get a match from the, company that sold us the playground equipment?
Yes, because it was $120,000 worth of playground equipment.
Okay,
So the $63,000 bill that you owe to them is the discounted price.
okay.
So it was like 100 and teens,
Mhm.
somewhere in there. Because the swing sets were not 50% off. It was the 2 main pieces, remember there's like the big kid
Right, the big.
and the little kid,
Yeah.
those are the 2 that you got 50% off. So even though 63 didn't make 126, it was like, the discount I think was like 59,000 or something like that. So when we talk about a $63,000 invoice that we'll get, that's with the discount.
That the city will owe.
We will owe $63,000. And then the city council, because you guys hadn't met, had to make, well, you didn't have to make a decision, I guess, but I needed to know the amount. So we kind of, when we researched acceptable playground equipment, pea gravel that you have right now at the park, 2 parks, isn't really one of the recommended uses for surface material. I've never seen it used either. So really, you're supposed to use the rubber tires and mulch, like wood mulch. And so the council went with wood mulch because to fill that, we're estimating $1,800 for the wood and over $12,000 for the rubber.
Wow.
And, yeah, and then everybody's concerned because it's fluffy, and it's so windy up there that like they thought it could easily blow out. And then, obviously, the downside is there's more maintenance because the mulch, degrades, and so probably every 2 years. So it was like, you were gonna get to almost 6 or 7 cycles to be able to replenish that. And so even though, every other year or so we'll have to get a load of mulch dumped there, that's kind of what the council was recommending, so they approved that. And then, obviously, we also have to get a concrete barrier, but it's our intent that our staff will install it in the spring, get the delivery of the mulch, and then whether we pour concrete or it may be that like Custom Precast pours like long sections to make the square. And then our guys would grade it so that the surface is, that your concrete is pretty much just tucked in at the surface level, so you can walk right across it. So that's what we talked about at the council meeting. All the money right now is at the enhancement committees in their control, so I asked Linda to talk to Randy about whether they want to give us the 31 when we owe that right now. So we have to pay half down and then the other half when it comes. Or if Randy'd rather just get it off the books and give us one check. So we'll discuss that this week. So for the most part, really our contribution from the city doesn't have to be very big, which is helpful. You know, we have the dog park. We'll find out in a week or so if we get that grant, and then can decide after that if we want to do anything else in the spring, or reserve that for pickleball or baseball or stuff. So that's all I have for that.
Okay. DNR tree planting update, October 10 at 1 PM.
So we applied for the 8 trees, 5 of them that we need up at the park to kind of just start some trees there around the playground, and then we're going to plant 3 of them at the dog park. As a part of receiving that grant, which was a 50% funding, so it was like $1,900 worth of material between the trees and mulch, and so we got half of that, just under $1,000. In order to get that funding, we had to have a public event, so I have the 6th graders arranged to come on a bus on the 10th at 1 o'clock. It would be great if a couple of you could be there. I know you're working, but Sharon, if you can come, or if you can arrange your day schedule to come up there. Part of our agreement with the DNR was to have a public event. I'll send you, if you're both gonna come, I'll send you the video. You just are supposed to watch a little 5-minute video, but we'll have the holes pre-dug. Bill McCarthy's already picked up the trees. They're over at the warehouse, utility warehouse, being watered.
Is this going to be at the park, or are you going to do it at the dog park? Or
We're
which-
gonna start at the park, and
Start
then
at
we'll
the
see
park,
if we have
okay.
enough time. The kids only have an hour, so it may just have to be that city staff kind of finishes the other ones, but it's 2 whole classes, so I don't know how many kids that is. If you have a shovel to bring, like a spade, feel free to bring it along, so we have a few more that kids can, like, our intent is to have the hole, set the tree in, let them scoop dirt, scoop the mulch on top, kind of, you know, water it, go through the process of planting it, so. And then I'm going to the class the day before, and we'll watch the video together and kind of explain to the students what the grant is about and why we got it, and that the big reason that they're funding these kinds of things is because of the emerald ash borer disease. And so
Right.
when communities were hit hard by that, it's a big deal. Like, you have to get your species approved. If, like, you go to the tree farm and they don't have the right one that you said in your grant, you have to get it approved by the DNR, because a big thing is about diversity. They don't want you to put all one type in, so that, again, you don't just get these mass quantities of trees wiped out because you have so many of the same kind.
Makes sense.
So if anybody can come to that event, that would be helpful. And I'll send you a reminder.
Okay. Dog park update.
So I'm trying to get another quote. I have a quote from Hires that I got a while ago, and I've asked them if, I haven't heard back from them either, but I did get the quote, but I've said, can we get going right around 2 weeks from today to be able to make sure that we install the fence before the winter. And then I'm trying to get another quote from Kevin Noonan, called me, but I haven't seen anything from him. And then I haven't been able to reach Hawkeye either. So we'll see. But I'll let you know. Then we would have them ready to go in mid-October, because we can't spend anything until we hear about the grant. On the website, it said the grant was to be determined or announced on October 15th, but that's a Sunday, so I'm guessing it's maybe the next day. Or maybe the Friday before, I don't know which. So kind of standing by, you know, if we don't get the grant, we'll do more low-key stuff, like only pay for the fence and a few little amenities. If we get the grant, we have to spend $30,000, so then we would be able to get some other amenities, like some little play things in there. We have a Boy Scout that is willing to do his Boy Scout project with a simple concrete pad with one picnic table, and then the kind of little like shade structure where they put a little roof over it. You kind of see that on trails.
Nice.
So we'd probably put that in the big dog area, in the flatter spot, so that people, you know, it's not going to be right when you walk in, but it's kind of curvy up there. So we'll work with him on that in the spring. And then again, we'd have 3 trees planted there. We'll have, we have some old hydrants that the guys saved, because dogs like to,
Oh, yeah. they-
boy dogs like
the
to
boy
pee on
dogs
them.
need
Yeah, oh,
something,
yeah.
yep.
Instead of them peeing, and we'll have to protect the trees, kind of put like little things on around the trees so they're not peeing on them, or directly. And then we'll start advertising if anybody in the spring would want to fund a park bench out there, like any dog
Oh,
lover
sure.
people, or maybe somebody wants to have it in memory of an old dog or their dog, in honor of their dog. So it probably would be good to have one bench in the small and one bench in the large. And then the other thing that we're looking at is just water for dogs, not trying to create a system that's human water, like having an upper water fountain. But we've talked about maybe those, kind of the Iowa, what do they call them? The Iowa well things where it's just like a pumper thing.
hand
And then,
pump.
yep, and then you could have like a dog bowl made with like tiny little holes so that it, you know, you would like run the water in it. Because if you look at like the dog things that you can buy, they're like $1,700. But they have a really thin, like tiny holes in the drain so that you like put the water in, the dog can lick it up, and then it moves down the drain so that it isn't sitting there in stagnant water for
Right,
them to
right.
lick up. But that they can get water there. So I think it's more important. I just feel like people don't really use water fountains for humans. Like, we have this one out here, and I think in the course of a month, 2 people use it, and it's just a lot of money. Like, you're talking $5,000 to
Right.
get a fountain that's for humans and dogs. And I feel like most people bring water bottles, and, you know, it's just, the world is like that now, so. I think it's more important that we just get something on the ground level. So the guys are kind of working through that, of how to make sure that it's a spot, and then we have to make sure that there isn't like a hose hookup where somebody could hook up a hose and siphon
Yeah.
something into the water system, so. We're working on that.
I have a couple of questions. Who's giving the grant for the dog park?
No one for sure. If we get it, it's the state of Iowa.
The state of Iowa?
And it's called Rural Enrichment.
Okay.
And when the people came here in January for our downtown assessment, that was one of the things when we talked about the things we were working on. It'd be a good
They
project to.
suggested it?
The state employees suggested, when we were talking about all the things we want to get done in town, that was one of the things that they said could be a good project under this grant program, and suggested we apply.
And when and where was the decision made to put it at Oak Hill? I mean, was this a public meeting? I missed it. I'm asking you because I wasn't there.
We talked about it here. The reason that I know that you've put in there that it was going to be at the sewer plant, it can't go at the sewer plant because the old sewer plant is in the floodplain, and you can't put up fences there. So even
Can't
though
what?
it's in the floodplain,
Yeah.
and the only kind of fence that you can put up in a floodplain would be a knockable, where like a big dog could jump on it and it would fall over. So that's kind of against the purpose of a dog park. And you can't obviously have a dog park without a fence. So even though there was lots of discussion about having it at the sewer plant, it would not be legal, and I would not be able to give anybody a permit to put their fence up there.
Did anybody explain to them that that was the really only centrally located place in town that was available?
The DNR doesn't really care.
The
They're gonna-
DNR doesn't care.
They care about you following
Well,
FEMA.
that's rich.
Well, they don't care that you say that's the place we want to put the dog park. You have to follow the floodplain
Not a
rules.
matter of want. What I'm saying is that when you locate it way on the east side of town, you make people on the west side of town. I don't have a dog, I'm not going there anyway. I'm just saying, this is one of the things that people should consider, that these kind of, especially when it's a single item like this, centrally located, that's all. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't know where we have centrally located land otherwise.
Oh, was that the sewer plant? What?
But you didn't hear what I said, Shirley. I just said we can't put it
I
there.
did hear what you said.
But then you're making it seem like we could put it there, but we can't put it there. Or we can't have it fenced in, and nobody's gonna bring their dog to an unfenced dog park, so that's why it's not there. That's all I have for the dog park.
All right, summer season wrap-up, the swimming pool.
So, we gave you some spreadsheets, 2 of them. You had gotten this 22, probably Sharon and Sammy, you didn't. I think Cookie would have been the one that would have gotten this 22 recap. So,
I've got that.
I mean, you didn't get it back a year ago, is what I'm
Oh,
saying, sorry.
okay.
So this is the same spreadsheet that we gave the park board a year ago for the 22, and then we just kind of duplicated it. So when you look at the revenue, we obviously, we did bring in for public and private lessons, about $3,300 more. The concession stand brought in $4,100 more. Admissions, $3,400 more. And then obviously like the fun night, miscellaneous revenue, things like that, that's just, we didn't have that before, so that would be new. And I think perhaps like those busier nights would also, contribute to the concession stand, things like that.
Right.
And then if you look at the expenses were slightly higher for the total, which you can kind of go across and compare the 139 on the right to the 147. So you'll actually see that the salaries came down, which then would have FICA come down slightly. The big increase was insurance, which we've explained at budget time that our insurance went up everywhere.
Whoa.
So
time.
that's a big,
Big
that's 11,000, and we went up less than 11,000. So if you really take that out of the equation, if that insurance hadn't gone up, we really would have captured like managing the pool at a cheaper level.
Wow.
And then if you also look at the gas and electric, that's also a big savings this year. So a couple things. You'll remember that even though we paid $600 to go to an indoor facility for training, if you remember that, we were able to not heat the pool in the spring for about 2 weeks, shorter period, and that's the coldest time. I think this summer was probably regularly warmer. And then, of course, we had 2 incidents where the heater wasn't working. A short time in the middle of summer, and then the last probably 10 days of the summer. And so I don't think that contributes to exactly cutting it in half.
Right.
But we definitely tried to, be more efficient with that. And so I think, again, I'd have to compare like the April, May bills to see. But again, it's always changing depending on how hot or cool it is. But I do think that it's still a better investment to have an indoor facility to not have to heat it as early. So that's a good thing. Also, again, like concession spending went up, but also the revenue went up. And so the revenue went up by 4,100 and the expenses only 2,300. So we made about $1,000 more on concessions. And even when you look at like having the fun nights, we brought in the revenue from the sponsors, but we did do like, free popcorn at the movie night, and what was the thing that we gave? Oh, we gave away just free ice cream, I guess. And then we also had like the winners of the games who would get a coupon. So little things like that.
Right.
Would have contributed to a little bit more expense. We tried really hard at the end on the last few days to just, like, we didn't buy anything so that we could just try to sell and like get rid of stuff. There really wasn't much food left over, so that was also good. And then we obviously also have more data when it comes to, did I put that in here? Did you guys get that? I didn't get that. So we were able to look at the, the family passes, and we can talk about that again next time, but if you look on the bottom right corner of the bottom of both sides. So it tells you how many family with caregiver and individual passes that we sold. And then if you compare that to 22, we did not keep track of the family and family with caregiver. So if you add the two on the 23 side, you'd obviously get 192 compared to 185 in 22, and then you can see that we sold 13 more individual passes. And then part of our software that we were kind of trying to kind of get at was that an individual user uses it on average of about 22 times that they got checked in on their pass. Somebody only used it once, and there were other individuals that used it 67 times.
Wow.
So if you take
That's per individual, so like one
Correct.
individual on average used it 22.
The average of all the individuals, which were the 67 passes, the average when you average all 67, the average person comes 22 times on their pass. So when you take the 22 times, they would pay $5 to get in. An individual would be paying $110 at 22. And then if you went to the 67, obviously that's a completely different number. And that would be $335. So it's a steal of a deal if you're the 67 visitor person.
Yeah.
And then again, we show you the same kind of statistics for that most families came in 45 times. Somebody came in once, and the high person came in 238 times.
Wow.
We won't say who that is. And then, like, that person was very high extreme, and then you can see that the next one is 152, and then families with caregivers, again, right around that 44 times. The smallest number in that category was 7, and then 132. So I just think like that for me was important to be able to say, all right, again, if you came in 132 times and I need to confirm, so I wasn't the software person for that, but I want to ask Chantel, like, is that 132 people visits or session visits? You know, so if you come in with 3, are you dividing that by 3? I'm not sure how the software works.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I think that that's, especially when we're looking at like what we're charging, to be able to say, all right, like an average person, you know, coming in is paying around $4 a time instead of 5 if they come in. But somebody that comes in on the high end is paying $1.20 or whatever. So that's what we have for that. You know, we talked to the staff. We'll obviously try to, they did like an online survey to just give us feedback. I think this year they liked last summer, like 22 summer, they tried to make them work like the whole day, both shifts. And then this year we offered if they wanted to just work days or just work the night shift. And I think that, even though it's a little harder to do the schedule that way, I think that the kids liked it better to not have to work such a long day. And then obviously we had the summer pool parties were real long days for the 2 days, but.
Okay. Any other comments on that? Any other business? Well, I see none. Have a motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Go turn off the box cast.
Okay. Not too shabby.
No, it wasn't.
Let's say we got a lot done in an hour.
We did a lot.
That's good.
All right, guys. I'll see you all later.
See ya.
Back to work.
Working in town, Sammy? Working down here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tap room. I typically work most Mondays because